Have you ever dreamed of traveling to a new country with your family and speaking English confidently? While doing it, imagine landing in Costa Rica, feeling the warm breeze and hearing the waves crash and realizing that you can describe everything around you in English, from the color of the sky to the sound of birds and the smell of fresh fruit. Can you picture walking through a local market with your family, naming all the fruits, vegetables, and crafts in English, practicing sentences like, "I would like 2 bananas," or "How much is this?" and noticing how naturally the words come? Can you imagine asking locals simple questions like, "Where is the bus station? How much does it cost?" Or "Can you recommend a good restaurant?" and feeling proud every time you understand the answer and respond correctly? Can you feel the excitement of planning your day with your children and saying, "Today we will visit the waterfall," and then have lunch by the beach, and noticing how easy it becomes to form sentences in English without hesitation? Have you tried describing the animals you see in the rainforest to your family in English, saying, "Look at that colorful toucan," or "That monkey is so funny," and feeling how your brain starts thinking in English automatically? Have you considered walking along the beach and narrating your actions in English to yourself, saying, "I am putting on sunscreen. I am walking to the water," and noticing how repetition helps your fluency and builds your confidence? Can you imagine sitting in a small cafe, ordering food, using English phrases, practicing polite sentences like, "Could I have a sandwich and a coffee, please?" and feeling how your confidence grows every time you complete a small interaction? Can you visualize your children learning alongside you and repeating phrases after you, and noticing how this shared practice strengthens family bonds while improving English? Can you picture exploring a volcano national park and describing everything around you in English, the trees, the steam, the birds, the rocks, the trails, saying, "I am hiking up the trail," and listening to the water flowing nearby and noticing how naturally English words fit into your thoughts? Can you feel yourself taking short notes in English about the animals, plants, and landmarks you see, and then sharing them with your family, practicing sentences like, "We saw a sloth resting in the tree," or "The waterfall was amazing," and feeling proud that your vocabulary is expanding daily? Imagine taking a boat tour and narrating what you see using English phrases. "I see dolphins. I see a heron flying overhead," and feeling how repetition and real-life observation help you remember words faster and feel more comfortable speaking. Imagine sitting with your children under a palm tree, describing the colors, shapes, and sizes of the leaves, flowers, and coconuts in English, and noticing how naturally English comes to mind. Imagine reading simple signs in English at the airport, at the hotel, and along the streets, and repeating them aloud, practicing pronunciation and comprehension. Imagine discussing your daily itinerary with your family in English, saying, "Today we will go to the chocolate farm," and then swim in the river, and noticing how planning in English helps your fluency and builds confidence every day. Imagine taking small breaks and repeating sentences you learned aloud, practicing pronunciation, shadowing native speakers, and noticing how this small habit transforms your listening and speaking skills. Imagine describing the sunset with your family in English, saying, "Look at the sky, it is so orange and the clouds are so fluffy," and feeling how naturally English words flow when you describe your surroundings. Imagine using English to ask for help when directions are confusing. "Excuse me, could you show me the way to the bus station?" and noticing how polite phrases make communication easier and boost your confidence. Can you picture yourself taking videos or photos and narrating them in English, saying, "This is the river, the water is so clear, and the trees are tall," and how this simple habit helps you practice complete sentences and new vocabulary? Imagine ending your day with your family reflecting in English, saying, "Today we saw many animals, we tried new foods, and walked along the beach," and noticing how reflection strengthens your memory and your English practice. Imagine repeating your favorite phrases before sleeping, saying, I love Costa Rica. I love practicing English and feeling how daily repetition improves fluency and builds confidence. Imagine each small interaction in English, adding up like a puzzle, forming a bigger picture, and noticing how, after a few days, you start thinking in English automatically without effort, and how each time you speak, you feel proud and motivated to continue. Now picture taking short hikes in the jungle, describing the plants, trees, and streams in English, saying, the leaves are big, the water is cold and clear, and the trail is steep, and noticing how each sentence you speak strengthens your vocabulary and confidence. Can you imagine exploring a coffee plantation and practicing English phrases, saying, I see coffee beans, I smell the roasted coffee, and how describing your surroundings helps you remember new words and sentence structures? Can you feel the joy of tasting new fruits and describing them? And English saying, this mango is sweet, this pineapple is sour, and noticing how fun and effective learning becomes when you use English to talk about real experiences. Imagine visiting local schools and interacting with children, practicing simple English greetings and questions, saying, hello, how are you, and what is your favorite color, and noticing how your fluency grows in social situations. Can you imagine kayaking with your family along a river, narrating each action in English, saying, I am paddling the boat, the water is calm, and noticing how this reinforces your vocabulary? And sentence building. Imagine visiting a wildlife rescue center and describing animals in English, saying, this sloth is sleeping, this toucan is colorful, and how your repeated observations and narration help you retain words longer. Can you picture yourself creating small stories in English about each activity you do today and sharing them with your family, saying, today we saw a waterfall, a monkey, and a toucan, and feeling how storytelling reinforces fluency? Imagine ending the day sitting on the beach, watching the sunset, and speaking in English with your family, reflecting on the day, saying, we walked along the river, we saw many birds, and we tried new foods, and noticing how naturally English sentences come to mind. Can you feel the pride and joy of learning English in a fun, engaging context, and how every small practice makes a huge difference in your listening and speaking skills? Imagine repeating your favorite phrases while falling asleep, saying, I love Costa Rica, I love practicing English, and noticing how this builds long-term fluency. Imagine reviewing new words before breakfast, describing yesterday's experiences in English, saying, we saw a volcano, we tasted bananas, and learned about coffee, and feeling how repetition cements your memory. Imagine planning tomorrow's trip in English, saying, tomorrow we will hike to the waterfall and then visit the chocolate farm, and noticing how planning in English strengthens your sentence formation and confidence. Imagine telling stories to your children about the day's adventures in English, saying, today we saw a colorful bird, a monkey, and a beautiful river, and noticing how repetition and speaking aloud improves fluency. Imagine creating a small journal in English describing your daily activities and favorite moments, saying, today we explored the jungle and tasted fresh fruit, and noticing how writing and speaking together enhance learning. Imagine practicing English phrases while swimming, saying, I am swimming in the river, the water is cool and refreshing, and feeling how describing actions helps vocabulary retention. Imagine taking a nature walk and narrating observations in English, saying, I see a butterfly, I hear birds chirping, I feel the sun on my face, and noticing how small phrases add up to stronger fluency. Imagine teaching your children simple English words for objects around you, saying, this is a leaf, this is a coconut, and noticing how teaching reinforces your learning. Imagine repeating simple dialogues with your family in English, practicing greetings, questions, and responses, saying, how are you today? I am fine, thank you, and noticing how repetition and practice improve confidence. Imagine sitting together after dinner reviewing the day's English sentences, saying, Today we hiked, we saw a sloth, and tasted fresh mango and feeling how small reflections strengthen memory. Imagine listening to local guides and repeating key phrases in English, saying the river is deep, the trail is steep, and noticing how shadowing native phrases improves listening and speaking. Imagine narrating small adventures in English, saying, I climbed a tree, I crossed a stream, and feeling how storytelling builds confidence and vocabulary. Imagine describing the sky, cloud, sun, and wind in English, saying, the sky is blue, the clouds are fluffy, the wind is strong, and noticing how natural it becomes to think in English. Imagine speaking to locals politely using English phrases, saying, excuse me, can you help me with directions, and noticing how real communication reinforces learning. Imagine ending the day reflecting on improvements, saying today I spoke more English than yesterday, and noticing how proud and motivated you feel. Imagine repeating favorite phrases at bedtime, saying, I love Costa Rica, I love practicing English, and noticing how long-term fluency develops. Imagine reviewing vocabulary while enjoying breakfast, saying, the fruit is sweet, the river is cool, the birds are colorful, and noticing how daily repetition builds strong English habits. Imagine planning small daily goals in English, saying, today I will describe all animals I see and practice 5 new words.